thoughts on DeMarco winning the Defensive Player of the Week award?
Yeah, it's great. Happy for him. I think anytime these guys come in and they work the way that they do, they prepare the way that they do, and then to go out and play well. And look, he's played well, for us. Whatever it's been the last 3-4 weeks, he's played well for us. So I think it's a credit to him, and I think it's a credit to those assistant coaches that have been able to get those guys ready.
You obviously have the perspective of kind of viewing his entire career at this point. What do you think? I guess what was the one thing that stood out to you from New Orleans and he would be a fit here, and then what has he taken to the next level since he's gotten here?
I think the biggest thing for him is he's gotten an opportunity, unfortunately for some of the other guys, whether it be TJ, Noah, Tremaine, those guys being out, it's unfortunate for those guys, and yet it provides opportunities for other people. And I think my last year there in New Orleans, we kind of felt like he was maybe turning a little bit of a corner. And then, when they let him go, after training camp, I knew that was a guy that we wanted to try to target to get in here and see if we could, work with him. And so the thing that I knew about him, I knew what was inside his heart, in terms of the type of person he was, in terms of the type of worker he was, in terms of how he was going to fit into the locker room. There was no question about that. And so, and I think like with a lot of young players, sometimes it takes some time to develop. And but if you keep working at it, and you're smart, work at it, got some athletic ability, you end up getting better.
Dennis, what have you found notable about watching Al Harris coach the DBs and what he's able to get out of them?
Yeah, well, look, I think he does a great job. I think him, I think Matt, Cannon, those guys that all work with the defensive backs, I think they do an outstanding job with them. I think as much as anything, a couple things with Al is when you've played this game and you've played this game at a high level like he has, there's instant credibility in terms of what you can provide from a player's perspective. And Coach will talk, Al will talk to us sometimes in terms of looking through the helmet as opposed to the ball cap. And I think that's a valuable resource to have. It's a valuable resource for me to have. It's a valuable resource for the players to have. But I think that, and I think just the mindset of, how we're going to play and how we're going to attack the ball. I think he's brought those things, and yeah, I'm extremely happy with him and really with all the assistant coaches.
Where has this kind of compared for you in terms of years where it just seems like you've had so much talent in and out, mixing, matching, different, whether it's the dime packages, because now you got all these DBs coming back, guys are dealing with injuries, coming back from injuries, trying to get back to 100%. Just how unique of a challenge this has been?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's challenging, and I think every year you kind of deal with that in some form or fashion. Some years more than others. And so I think the big thing is each and every week is a new week. And so, it's like, trying to create a meal, like what are the ingredients that we have, and then we'll figure out what the meal's going to be, I think that's kind of what we've had to do there. And you try to find out what are the skill set of the players that you have available to you, try to put them in positions to be able to do the things that they do well, try to minimize the times that you ask them to do things that maybe they're not as good at. And each week that might change based on who you have available to you.
So do you cook? So do you cook?
I grill. My wife's an outstanding cook, though, so yeah.
You mentioned every week's a new week, but you played these guys just 2 weeks ago, obviously. Explosive plays were probably the big one in that one. How do you look at sort of cleaning that up and changing up what you got to do?
Yeah, well, number one, when I look at their offense, I think a lot of what they do offensively, is they're very explosive. And they've been explosive in a lot of games. And yet that's something that we have to work to try to, eliminate or minimize, in this game. I look back at the last game, I think there's probably 3 or 4 plays that, really kind of became the deciding outcome of the game. So you look at it, there's some lessons to be learned there. Hopefully we learn those lessons both as a coaching staff and as players, and we put ourselves in a little bit better position to minimize those things. But that was a big factor in the game the last time we played these guys, and I'm sure that'll be a big factor in this game.
Dennis, when you were hired here, what message did you receive from Ben to empower you that your decisions, the defense, the vision, all that you wanted to build would be on your terms when you got here?
Well, look, let's be honest. Ben's the head coach. He's in charge of all of it. I think there's a trust level, and that's earned over time. I don't know that it was necessarily that way, from the beginning, and yet, I think my resume would say that, there's a little bit of a trust level kind of going into it, but I'm appreciative of the fact that he's given me an opportunity to really, step in and do the things that I think we need to do to be successful defensively, and yet he's still in charge of, the whole thing. And so we communicate, really on a daily basis about a lot of different things, what we're doing defensively. There's some times that he has some thoughts and ideas, and some of those, fit into what we're trying to get accomplished, and we're able to kind of incorporate those things. So I think he's a good sounding board for me too, because, obviously he sees the game from an offensive perspective. And so when you're thinking about attacking an offense, who better to communicate with than, the guys that's kind of running that type deal. So look, I think it's been great. And I've really enjoyed, having the opportunity to work for him.
How'd you feel about the flow of the time split between Jalen and Tyreek last weekend?
Look, I thought it worked out well. I think each and every game is going to be different in terms of how that works out. We kind of went into the game with a little bit of a plan, and I think some of how the game played out, dictated, percentage of playing time, when guys were in. But I think that's worked out well. We'll see how it plays out this week. But look, it's a good problem to have when you have talented players, and you're finding ways to try to get all those guys out on the field.
What was most notable to you about Jalen's interception?
Say it again.
What was most notable to you about Jalen's
The
interception?
finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, and really, quite honestly, within every play, there's a lot that goes on from the snap to the finish of the play. And so the most important part of it is how you finish the play. And I thought he did a great job of playing the ball, playing through the man, and finishing on the ball, and to gain control, keep his feet in bounds. Yeah, it was a hell of a play, and I think that does some good for his confidence in terms of where he's at. I think each and every week he continues to get a little bit better, and so we're going to try to keep pressing that envelope a little bit. All right, thanks, guys.
How do you guys evaluate kind of what the Packers may look like now? They're missing a pretty important piece. And if you look at last year's stuff, what's the process?
I mean, obviously, you kind of go back through everything again. Just now that we've played them a couple weeks ago, you have familiarity with the defense and kind of how we prepared for them coming into this game. Obviously, as their personnel changes and our personnel changes, it's really a different team you're playing 2 weeks later. But really going in and focusing on the pieces that are there and kind of how we want to attack those guys.
You mentioned your own personnel changing. What's the challenge this week when you've got maybe one, maybe two wide receivers now?
Yeah, I think just anytime you're late in the season, you're always kind of in flux as far as who's going to play in the game and all those things. And that kind of gets evaluated through the week. But that's always a challenge. We're trying to put our guys in the best position to go have success, whoever those players may be. And, that's really our focus this week.
Declan, when you see the physical blocks throughout a game, like Jonah's on the trap block on Mason Graham, Colston chipping on Miles Garrett, what does that say about your team and the physicality that you guys are trying to present each and every week?
Yeah, I think that's contagious sometimes. You know, you watch you talk about the play that Jonah had, and to put that on tape and our guys to see that and see what that looks like and kind of embody the physicality that we want to play with, the brand of football that we want to embody. Um, you know, it's a positive because the things that we're preaching are showing up week in and week out, and you know, you're really starting to see our identity on tape and what we say we're going out and doing, and so that's encouraging anytime that shows up.
What can you say about encouraging? This was to see DJ get in the end zone twice, and what do you think that means for the next 3 games in terms of his involvement?
It was great. You know, I was really fired up for him to be able to go execute, the plays that were called and kind of called his number, and he went out and made great plays. I think he's been doing a great job throughout the year of doing what we've asked of him. We kind of talked about it last week. It was good to see him go kind of have, a little bit of a breakout there. But really, nothing changes moving forward. We just continue to try to, the defense changes every week. We're trying to put our guys in good spots, and he's no different. We're really trying to allow him to shine and show off what makes him himself.
Have you seen Caleb's accuracy trending up the last few weeks? And if so, what do you attribute it to?
I think Caleb's accuracy, week in and week out, continues to improve as far as his processing and those things go. I don't know if you can attribute it to anything other than his just continued work into the process. We've come a long way from the very beginning of the spring when we started with him, and I think that you're going to have these like ebbs and flows throughout the process, but he just continues to come back to work and get better really every week, and so we really continue to expect that moving forward throughout the rest of the season.
Declan, on game day, with you being in the box, like what is your typical communication like? What are kind of your responsibilities throughout the course of a game?
Yeah, we all kind of have our role that we play during the game. I'm kind of narrating the game as we go, so kind of giving Ben down and distance and as far as location, that way he can call it and be up to date on the information. And then really between series, we don't talk a ton, but if there's something that comes up and we need to make sure we're covering it, Ben will bring it up or we'll talk through it as a staff, and then just trying to make sure the position coaches and the players are really all on the same page as far as any adjustments we're making as we're going, or things that, hey, we saw this look, we need to be prepared in the case that we may get it again or something like that. So really it's just kind of a constant communication. It changes, every week just as far as how much communication we need to have if what the defense is showing us is different than what we maybe prepared for. But that's really my role on game day.
How do you feel you've grown in that role since week 1 to where you're at right now?
Yeah, I think like anybody in any job, you just get more and more comfortable the more reps you get at it. Certainly a lot more comfortable now than maybe in game 1 as far as what the expectation is of the biggest thing is you're trying to find the most pressing information and get that to the people who need it without a lot of chatter in between. You're trying not to create any white noise or any distraction of anything or chase ghosts. You're really just trying to, okay, this is what the tight end needs to know. I need to get that information to Jim Dre. Jim Dre's got to get it to him, and then we can go out and execute. And so really being able to filter out what you may not necessarily need to talk about because it may not come up again.
Going down to 3 wide receivers at one point in the game, like a good example of where your role is kind of with that communication, trying to figure out what you can run, or what adjustments need to be made.
Yeah, it's a great example because anytime you have issues with the personnel or a lack of bodies in an area, there's always plays on the game plan that maybe it was specific to a player that we need to be out of that play. Maybe we don't have the correct bodies for the defense we might be expecting. And so that kind of becomes a constant communication as far as like fixing things. It kind of goes back to when I worked in New Orleans with Coach Payton, we were very personnel specific. So every single play, it was a specific group of 5 individual players on each play. And when we would have an injury, it would just create chaos because we really had to, we're a little bit more in flow on that. But at the same point in time, it is a good example. Like, we have a wideout go down. We need to discuss, what plays do we still like with the personnel that we have? And what do we need to not call again?
What is DeAndre's
Couple more, please.
What is his consistency meant for the offense this year, especially as Caleb's working through what he is?
Yeah, I think his consistency has been, very good for us. Same as the O-line, same as the other runners. Really, our outside guys doing a good job of blocking on the perimeter. I think that when you have a consistent part of your offense that you can go back to when things may not be going as well, I think it always kind of gives you something to fall back on during the week. And Swift has done a great job of that. He's been outstanding, throughout the week and then going into Sundays. But he's been a consistent player for us. He's a guy that you can count on, and we certainly all feel that way about him.
Declan, the second touchdown to DJ, what was just your reaction when Caleb let that ball go and what ended up happening there?
Yeah, that was one of those, like, you're watching it and you're like, oh no, oh yes, obviously anytime you score a touchdown, that's a positive thing. You want to go back to the process as far as, okay, on that play, we break contain. What does our decision making process look like? Where do our eyes need to go first? He ends up throwing that ball. We actually missed on that same route a couple weeks ago to OZ. We threw a hero post in the back of the end zone and we were short. It was awesome to see us go complete that route a few weeks later and kind of take the corrections. But that was one. The ball went up and I was just really happy that DJ came down with it.
Did you realize he caught it right away, or did it take a second?
I realized he caught it. I mean, you're looking right at it, and DJ's reaction kind of said everything.
Thanks, guys.
Yes.
All right, afternoon.
All right.
Doing outstanding. How are you guys? Good. All right, go ahead, shoot.
Richard, what was your vantage point in terms of the way you started on Sunday? You get the big return, a punt, good punt coverage, a good punt return, and really had an amazing first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's credit to the guys for going out, executing the game plan. Really love how the way we started off the game is something that we really wanted to do. Outstanding job by the guys blocking for Duvernay on that play. To that side of the ball, obviously you had Jalen Reeves-Maben over there. You had J.O. over there who did a nice job. Hardy did a nice job. McLeod. And then obviously Duve did what he does and hit it up the seam and get it into Cleveland territory. Outstanding way to start the football game. So we were very happy and pleased with that. And then to follow up with the other two plays you mentioned is a great job of creating momentum and sustaining momentum. So we just want to do that going forward.
Coach, when you see DeMarco Jackson go from a guy who was, mainly on the field helping you earlier in the season to now defensive player of the week in the NFC, just how do you reflect on the season he's had and what he's shown you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought very fond of D-Jack. I really like the way he comes to work. Very proud of him. The room is proud of him. You should have seen the team yesterday, or today, excuse me, when they announced it. Everybody was just so fired up for him because they know the journey. And it's just another great example of guys being ready when their time is called upon. So really happy for him and happy for our team to be able to celebrate that with him.
I have a rules question for you.
Mhm.
The punt that Josh Blackwell down just inside the one. I know the no consequence thing where the Cleveland player can touch it and it's not a fumble.
Mhm.
Two questions. Can the Cleveland player knock the ball into the end zone or carry it into the end zone? Would that be a touchback, or would it go back to where he hit it? And secondly, Jalen Jones then downed it. Now, what if Jalen Jones had his leg on the line? Is that a touchback then, or does it just go back to where it was touched originally?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, unbelievable play by Blackwell. One of the best that I've seen in a long time. And then also batted it back, and he had to battle the sun doing that as well. So that's what makes it even more incredible. But to answer your question, it's the first touch. So the first touch spot where Black did touch it, that's where it goes. So nothing there with Cleveland or nothing with Jalen. Really, after that, obviously they can advance it. We've seen that before with Dwayne Harris. We've seen that before with some of those plays. So that was good by those guys being right on top of it so that they couldn't. The flag you saw was they were talking about an illegal bat by their team, which obviously can't bat the ball certain directions on the field. But that's what they were talking about. But great question.
What happened on Cairo's
Yeah, I mean, that's a play, obviously. If you want to talk about a little bit of an eyesore for the game, I mean, that's the one where, first of all, I thought he did an outstanding job on kickoff. Okay, so before we talk about that, I will say that I thought he was a weapon on that. Okay, but on the field goal, right, the protection was excellent. Like, we've got to make that kick. It's under 35 yards. He knows that. I mean, anything under 40, we got to make that kick. All right. So the operation was not clean enough. Cairo knows that. Tori knows that. Scott knows that. But anything that close, we have to come away with points.
Did the temperature have anything to do with it?
No, it's no excuse. Under 35 yards, we got to do that. 35 or 40 under 40, got to be done.